I'm in my dressing gown.
Yes, you are.
There's a strange man in my bedroom
Yes, there is.
where anything could happen.
No.
Hello, welcome to Fast Return. I'm Sean.
And I'm Ethan. And today we're talking about Rose in the third and final part of our little trilogy discussing the Autons episodes.
We actually sat down and watched Rose for God knows, like the millionth time.
Yeah.
But every time we watch it, it is just such a thrill ride. And I love it so much. Every time we put it on, I am 10 years old again, tuning in on that Saturday on a whim. And I can't find any flaws in it.
I have to say, I think that after having watched a lot of New Who in quick succession lately, more than ever with our rewatch with your sister, I did think that Series 1 feels very different. And I do think it's my favourite season of New Who. And I do think that the atmosphere and like the vibe of it, all of which is shown in this episode, are part of the reason why I like it so much. And I do think Rose is a fantastic episode. I really do.
I think what it's trying to do, it does it so astronomically. And we turned to each other after the credits rolled and said, my God, you got all of that on your TV license, do you know? It was like a movie.
It's crazy that they managed to fit it all in 45 minutes so perfectly. And the pace of it does feel quite frantic because we've been so used to classic Who. But having said that, I was quite surprised, like functionally, what actually happens in it. It's not that far away from a classic Who story where you've got like the introduction of the companion.
You got me very funny.
The plot develops, you meet the monster, but there's still a lot of mystery. You meet the Doctor.
Hello.
You get more into the plot of the monster and the Doctor and how their past relationship is part of the story. And then you have the Doctor and the companion entering the baddie's base at the end and destroying them. I'm really surprised. Like, I know that tonally it's very different from Classic Who, but I feel like it was always going to be different from Classic. It was never going to come back and be like Classic Who. They weren't going to continue it where Survival left off, were they?
The world had moved on.
I'm always quite surprised. I mean, obviously, I can't imagine what it must have been like for it to have come back, but I feel like to give it negative feedback when it was like this back then, it's less like Classic Who now than it is here. Like, arguably, all the fancy stuff that's in it now, that's further from the original series than this.
I mean, I've not spoken to somebody who is a classic Doctor Who fan who didn't like this. Like Steve Allen, he was a classic Doctor Who fan and he adores this. He loves Russell's writing. He loves that Russell chose the Autons. We had a really great chat with him about what it was like for him, because he's obviously a man in his 60s. So he grew up with a different version of Doctor Who and then was sort of an adult when this came exploding onto the screen. So that was really interesting. So yeah, I feel like it must have been a minority of classic fans who didn't like this, probably a vocal minority. I just love how it's from Rose's point of view. And it's so nice having watched Spearhead, because obviously there's so many parallels between Spearhead and this episode, to see like Russell's brain tick and what he decided to do with it. Like, if you imagine Spearhead opens with Liz Shaw waking up in her bed, her alarm's gone off, her life is about to change, and it follows it all through her point of view, whereas Spearhead is through the Doctor's point of view, really. It's just so good.
Yeah, it's funny. There are quite a few parallels with it, aren't there? It does the thing that I really love to see in Doctor Who, when it really makes the focus on real people and makes it so that the audience have a lot to associate with, which makes the otherworldly stuff and the creepy stuff seem more enhanced. I really think that's the strength of Series 1 and earlier Doctor Who as well. Certain seasons do it better than others, but I think that Series 1 does it really well, where like the mundanity of everyday life is really shown alongside the alien stuff in Doctor Who, and it's done so well. Like the eerie stuff in Series 1, and I think a big part of it's the music too, how the music's very different in this series to other series. It just all adds together to really make it special and unique. Should we start diving into the story?
Yeah, lovely. I love the opening shot because it shows you space, the universe. It's a big place, but you don't need to worry about that right now, because we're going to zoom into the Earth and you're going to see one person's life.
Yeah.
And I think that just immediately sets the tone.
It typifies the stuff we were just saying.
Yeah.
You can see why they do it, because everyone knows what it's like to wake up in your bed and it's like, oh, gotta get up, got to get to work. And it's like all that stuff about it shows Rose's point of view on a normal day, so that when things start to go strange, when the doctor gets involved, you think, oh my God.
And it could happen to anyone.
Yeah. Exactly.
Anyone's day could start and feel normal and then completely change. I loved the opening montage of Rose's day, where she's at work, she's bored, she's folding clothes. She meets her boyfriend for lunch. They have a sandwich, have a laugh. And there's a few like foreboding things I really love where, like when Rose gets off the bus, the camera pans past her, past the shop and zooms in on like the shop window dummies.
Yeah.
I really like that. And how like the music's really playful and then it just gets interrupted by the ding of the elevator.
Yeah, because it's like that's when her normal day stops.
Yeah.
She's on autopilot, and the second that lift enters that basement,
everything changes.
Yeah, she's out of her comfort zone now. But I also really like that the music plays in universe when she's in the shop.
Yeah.
Like through the speakers.
That's clever. It's so immersive.
But yeah, like even the idea of being in a shop like after hours and in the basement is like those staff only areas in department stores. When you see glimpses of them in real life, they're always really creepy and old, aren't they?
Yeah.
And this like plays into that a lot as well. It's like one of the things that everyone universally finds is a bit creepy. And it's a very classic Who thing. Like to have all the Autons standing there. It's like Spearhead, isn't it?
Yeah.
They're just objects that have had life breathed into them, and here they all are standing still.
The ones that come alive, they've got a very unique look.
Yeah, well, some of them do, but there's kid ones that have like very basic faces. I noticed that for the first time watching the Blu-ray.
Yeah.
They have like really smooth heads. Almost like the ones from Terror, where it's just like it's like a vaguely human-shaped face with like indentations where the eyes are.
In the Target novel, which I recommend everybody reads, have you read it?
No, but you've read part of it to me.
So Wilson has a whole backstory. He's got a whole chapter.
Yeah, I remember hearing about that.
And he's not a very nice guy.
No.
And something to do with the lottery money plays a huge part in the Target novel, and it's really great. I'm not going to spoil it. The Target novel really, really fleshes out this story, and Russell includes things that he would have put into this episode, but didn't have the money. Like after the Doctor and Rose escape the Autons, but they're still in the shop, the Doctor opens like a panel and there's like, it's like a fuse box, but in the fuse box is like Auton fronds. And that's why the Doctor has to blow up the whole building, because the entire building, the wires, everything's infested with Nestene. And that was going to explain why he blew up the entire shop.
Right.
But yeah, definitely worth reading.
It's clever that the best Target novels are the ones where the original writer writes the book.
Yeah.
I think with a lot of classic Targets, sometimes they just go through what happens in the episode. But for some of them, the original writers came back and revisited. I think they do it more with the New Who ones, to be fair.
Yeah, Russell and Moffat, their ones.
They embellish them a lot. Yeah.
Something I noticed tonight is in the basement, the whispering.
Yeah.
Is so creepy.
What's it saying though?
I don't know, but it's like the Autons are talking to each other.
Yeah.
Or something. I don't know, but yeah.
It just adds to the eeriness. And that woo sort of sound in the music. It's just like, oh, it's so like freaky. It's
a very unique score. I think it works really, really well.
Even like when she pushes through the door into that first storeroom and you see the plastic sort of hanging things that come down in front of the door. The sound design in it is so good, and like the creaking as the Autons moved, you know?
Can you believe that when the episode leaked, Doctor Who fans took to Gallifrey Base and tore Murray's score apart, and it was a really vocal like minority, and they really hurt his confidence. And I read an interview recently about that where Russell detailed that, and just how detrimental like the online community can be when they want to just get nasty. Awful. And I think his score is absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
It's very noughties because he didn't have an orchestra for the whole of series one. Yeah.
No.
He only had, I think they'd booked the orchestra for like a day or two. It's all they could afford. And most of it had to come from his computer.
Yeah.
One of our friends, Chris, he is obsessed with Murray's music, and he like tracked down the instrument packs that Murray used, which contains like these really unique sort of sounds, like you just sort of ethereal, like atmospheres.
Yeah. I still think series 1 is the most accessible series of Doctor Who ever made.
And you are on Rose's shoulders, you know. Rose is learning about everything at the same time as you are about this show and about the lore and things. So it's just perfectly done. Like, it's perfectly executed. So the door slams shut and Rose is locked in this basement. The Autons start to creak to life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's really sad. When Rose gets backed into a corner, she sort of closes her eyes and she's bracing herself.
Yeah. He like whisks her off, doesn't he? And then it's like she's part of the adventure then, whether she likes it or not.
It'd be so cool to live this story through the Doctor's eyes. Like, I don't know if you ever follow Twilight, but
I fell asleep in it in the cinema. That's it.
Stephanie Meyer, she wrote where it was the first book again, but from Edward's point of view.
Right.
And I would love something like that for this, you know. What was the Doctor doing in the basement? You know, did he overhear all this commotion, and or was he silently following Rose? You know, was his affection for her, you know, maybe it started in the shop, maybe he was watching her from afar, and then she got herself into this dangerous situation and he intervenes.
He swoops in at the last second, saves her, and then it's like, right, we're off on an adventure now.
The run is so iconic.
Yeah.
Run.
And he whisks her away. Oh, the way they run is absolutely terrifying.
It's creepy, yeah.
And when the Doctor and Rose, like, they're holding hands running down the corridor, there are like Autons behind bars, sort of trying to grab at them.
Yeah.
And it's like everything has come to life.
Yeah.
In this basement.
Very creepy, yeah.
And they have quite a narrow escape, I always think.
When it sticks his hand into the lift trying to stop them. And I like it when they pull his hand off and it's just like a solid block of plastic.
Yeah.
That's what they describe the troll like in Terror.
Mm-hmm. I love that Rose thinks it's just students dressed up.
Yeah.
She's trying to rationalise it.
Yeah.
She's not quite there yet.
And they have that great chat in the lift, don't they, about, she's like, to get their people dressed up and being silly, they've got to be students. And he's like, very clever. And she's like, thanks. And it's like, they're not students.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well done.
Yeah.
Their relationship is, even this early on, is so magnetic. Like, they're both drawn to each other so strongly. There's something about Rose that the Doctor is drawn to, and he's trying to exact all of his old rules, which is, you know, don't make roots with anyone. And, you know, you'll put him in danger, but he just, something about Rose, he just can't help it. Like, they're being sort of bound together. But anyway, she legs it and he blows up Henrik's. And Rose walks past the TARDIS. I always find it weird. The lights are all off.
Oh, yeah, you're right, actually, Sean.
I always feel like maybe the TARDIS is being inconspicuous, like the Doctor's wound the engines down.
Yeah.
So that it doesn't draw attention from the Nestene.
Right.
Something, that's my head kind of.
It's just funny that like that's supposed to show you how the TARDIS is so easy to miss.
Yeah, when it wants to be invisible.
This thing on street corners that you don't pay any attention to, and then all of a sudden you do, and you know, and it's brought into the forefront of the episode later on. You know, yeah, it's really clever.
I know, it's on the telly. It's everywhere. She's lucky to be alive. Honestly, it's aged her. Skin like an old Bible. Walking in now, you think I was her daughter. Oh, and here's himself.
Jackie, she shines in this episode. I know, it's on the telly, it's everywhere. She's lucky to be alive. Honestly, it's aged her. Skin like an old Bible. She is
walking
brilliant.
in here, you think I was her daughter.
She makes me laugh every single time. I could literally lip sync all of her dialogue and it still makes me laugh.
I think Jackie's so funny because she's just like the mum character that roots the whole thing in the real world.
She's the anchor.
Yeah. Even after, like, you know, when Rose first gets out the shop
Yeah.
There's like a brief moment where it's like a breathing second, and then she turns around and the shop explodes.
Have you heard about the sofa incident? So it says, it's an old bit of gossip around the production series 1 that says Keith Boak, the director of the first block, failed to lead the production and was possibly even neglectful of the crew. The most infamous story from this is that whilst filming the scene where Rose's work explodes in the first episode, there was supposed to be a shot of a sofa flying out of the window on fire and landing in the street. The safety precautions were not met and it became a dangerous stunt that could have resulted in people getting hurt. Eccleston was apparently upset over this, but most of it is speculation. I'm curious as to if there is a specific origin for the story, but nothing official has ever been said about it.
Yeah.
And there are photos of this sofa on fire from the filming of Rose. So
Yeah, I can see the picture of it now, actually.
but anyway, sorry to detour. But yeah, Jackie is so funny when she starts talking about compensation.
Oh, yeah.
Ariana got 2,000 quid off the council just because the old man behind the counter said she looked Greek. I know she is Greek, but that's not the point. It's a valid claim. I love her.
Yeah, no, it's just very funny, really. And I think Camille Cadore is really well cast as well, to be
She's
fair.
brilliant. So we've just finished Big Boys.
Ugh.
And the guy who wrote it, Jack Rook, he cast Camille Cadore because of Doctor Who. It was what he grew up with. And she plays Jackie,
Yeah.
but also Jackie's kind of her as well.
Yeah. There's definitely a lot of crossover.
Yeah, she was lovely. When we met her in December last year at Galley Cab, and you know when you meet your heroes and you don't know what to say to them, so I just said to her, Camille, we love you. And she just looked at me and she said, we love you. Bless her heart.
That does feel like such a fever dream, that whole night, though.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. She's just Jackie to me.
I can't believe I met Camille Cadore.
She's Jackie. She embodies her. I love it. Rose's alarm goes off and it's the next day. And Jackie's like,
There's no point in getting up, sweetheart. You've got no job to go to.
There's no point getting up, sweetheart. You haven't got a job to go to.
yeah.
I love that Rose sits up. It's that iconic shot of Rose, like massive bed hair.
And then we're introduced to Mickey as well, properly. Bit of a dead-end boyfriend, isn't he? His girlfriend nearly dies in an explosion, and all he's worried about is catching the football game at the pub.
Well, he's just supposed to be nice but inoffensive, isn't he? Like, there's nothing wrong with him. It's just that she's a bit bored with him. Do you know? She's happy enough with him, but that's it. It's just that's all it is. She's happy enough, do you know?
But if you nearly died in an explosion, I wouldn't think like 60 seconds later I want to go to the pub.
Yeah,
and
but she
watch
still lets him go, doesn't she?
a sports game.
She says to him, go and watch it.
I know, but that's
It's like
just
she
not
doesn't
where his
really...
head should be, is it?
No, I know, but I think what we're supposed to take away from it is that he's nice enough, but she's not really like invested in the relationship anymore, do you know? She's just a bit bored. She's a bit bored with him, do you know? And the Doctor coming in really emphasises how different she is to Mickey. Because he is a bit cowardly, isn't he? When they first introduce him, he's very cowardly and a bit spineless. And that soon changes.
It's so clever how chaotic the flat is. There's all these people coming in and out and it's just mad. I think that's what I missed. Like, if you contrast this to Ruby Sunday's home, it just doesn't have the same feeling. It feels like a set. And
this doesn't. It feels messy and it isn't particularly nice to look at, but that's because they're getting it done up, aren't they? They're working on getting it done up. And I think, isn't that a thing throughout series 1? So it's always being done up. And then in the Christmas invasion, half the walls get destroyed. So then it's getting done up again in series 2.
She's always doing it up. She can never decide what colour to choose for the walls.
Yeah.
It's just so real, isn't it?
But Mickey's flat's similarly messy, and it's just because it's supposed to feel lived in.
Yeah.
And it is. They do feel very lived in. I love all the stuff. That's why I like the Christmas Invasion so much, because it's so much like it's Christmas with Doctor Who elements, but set in the Powerless state. Do you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bev, she's alive. I wish we'd gotten to meet Bev. Bev sounds like a diva.
Well, Shireen as well. We never meet her either.
And Ariana.
But Rose is walking out of the shop with 2 girls, isn't she, before she gets pulled away? So maybe one of them was Shireen.
So the Nestene is aware of the Doctor.
Yeah.
It wants to know how much the Doctor knows of its plan and if the Doctor is a genuine threat. So the arm is like a spy.
Yeah, it's listening out.
The Doctor arrives.
What are you doing here?
I live here.
Well, what'd you do that for?
Because I do. I'm only at home because someone blew up my job.
That's got the wrong signal. You're not plastic, are you? No. Bonehead. Bye then.
You inside right now.
What are you doing here? And she's like, Olivia, what are you doing here? And it's just like, again, the dialogue's so sharp and quick, where he's like, he's really demonstrating that he's an alien and she just doesn't really get it. She offers to make him a coffee and he's like, yes, please, just milk.
It's also sharp. Like when this was on, you said, not a word is wasted.
No, yeah, it's not. It really isn't.
And Jackie tries to come on to the doctor.
She does, yeah.
She's a bit of a minx, isn't she?
She is, yeah. With her dressing gown. I love that she's doing her hair. She's got all of her products out on the windowsill. Like 3 mugs of tea that are all massive mugs of tea. And yeah, she just hit on the Ninth Doctor and he's not interested, is he?
No.
There's a strange man in my bedroom. Yes, there is. I like how he plays along for a bit.
I think he doesn't really realise. And then when she's like, oh, anything could happen, he's like, no. But yeah, then there's a great bit when the Rose is making the coffee and the Ninth Doctor's in the main living room looking at all the magazines and stuff. Like, that won't last. He's gay and she's an alien, reading it really quickly. And then he picks up some cards and like throws them all over the room by accident.
Yeah. And it implies that this is the first time he's looked at himself in the mirror.
Yes, exactly.
So that's an important moment.
Yeah, I agree. I always think the Ninth Doctor is really tricky to fit in expanded media because to me, this is obviously the first time that he's seen himself in a reflection, do you know? The first time he's properly looked at himself. So he can't have regenerated that long ago. And also, I feel like it's a really important part of his character that he's with Rose at the start and the end of his incarnation. That there's not really any room to fit in adventures with other companions or Rose-free adventures, are there?
But there's the Titanic and Krakatoa.
Oh, crap. Yeah, I forgot about that.
So it's the first time he's looked at himself, but not his first adventure. So we've seen his regeneration.
I take it back.
From John Hurt, the War Doctor.
Yeah.
And from there, he goes on to have at least a handful of adventures without Rose.
But I think we can agree that once Rose is in his life, he's with her until he regenerates, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. God, that's interesting. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. Because also the funny thing is, he looks younger in the picture with the Titanic family. He looks younger in that. And we do know that if he stays as an incarnation for a long time, the incarnation does age. So that is fair. But clearly he was that incarnation for a while, I suppose. Yeah. Anyway.
Doctor's always so intrigued by their appearance when it changes. So it's difficult to believe that he just avoided reflections.
I guess his lifestyle is quite frantic, isn't it?
And he's not a very vain doctor.
You're not going to get a mirror in a lot of domestic settings, in a lot of non-domestic settings, i.e. like planets and quarries and things.
Nine's throw on a battered old jacket, and you know when Rose tells him to dress up, he says, "I changed my jumper." Ten's very self-obsessed in his suits, and so
he's a bit of a vain doctor after a while.
A lot of the other doctors. So Nine probably regenerated and then just got on with it. But anyway.
He's looking behind the chair saying, "Have you got a cat?" And then the hand whooshes out. And Rose walks in with the coffees. It doesn't even look at him. She's like, "I told Mickey to throw that away."
It's so
and
so
he's being
good.
choked, isn't he?
Yeah. And bless them, they're really trying, aren't they, with this hand prop. There's a bit of like slapstick going on until the arm changes from the going after the doctor to Rose, and I always think it's creepy when it's in midair on its own.
Yeah.
And then grabs onto Rose.
Yeah. It's creepy.
And I always remember
it's campy, but it's creepy as well.
In an interview with Russell, he would talk about the process of writing Rose.
Yeah.
And he would be reading this draft, and then he'd think, so Jackie's in the room next door, the Doctor and Rose are having a tussle with this arm and smash a coffee table. How is it that Jackie doesn't hear them and walk in?
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, right, type in. Jackie's getting ready. She puts on a hairdryer. And then that completely eradicates that whole, it's so clever how well thought out it all is.
Yeah, and it's set in the morning, so it's perfectly logical that she'd be getting herself ready.
Mm-hmm. They defeat the hand.
Harmless.
Do you think?
We get that gorgeous long shot.
So
no
good.
cuts.
All the dialogue's amazing. The performances are amazing. It's so natural, and just Billie Piper as Rose and Eccleston as the Doctor are just so well matched. They're really lightning struck there, And the fact they were able to do a shot like that in the first episode that's as slick as it is and as succinct as it is.
Yeah.
He's like, I can feel the world turning beneath our feet. We're clinging to the skin of this tiny planet. And it's like, oh my effing God. He's the Doctor. Eccleston got 12 episodes and he smashed it.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I thought watching it tonight. I mean, I always think this anyway, but I do think he's my favourite Doctor from New Who. I think Hartnell and Eccleston are my all-time favourite Doctors.
Mm-hmm.
And he just embodies it so perfectly. With Rose by his side, they're just such a good team.
Because that's a long, long tracking shot. You go right from Rose's flat all the way to the car park, you know, outside the Powell estate where the TARDIS is parked, and you're just gripped.
Yeah.
And all they're doing is talking to each other.
Yeah.
There's nothing else going on.
Yeah.
And you're just completely transfixed by these two actors, and it's just amazing. It's so amazing. You just learn everything you need to learn again as well about the Doctor, and he's just so mysterious, and
there's no mention of anything crazy. It's all stuff that a normal viewer can take in because it's done through Rose's point of view.
Mm-hmm. And that's magical as well. Like he tells her to go home, and the Doctor walks to the TARDIS, Rose walks off, and then hears this ancient alien noise and runs back, and the TARDIS is gone.
Yeah.
And it's like he told her to forget him and go home. How on earth could you forget when he delivered that amazing speech? You'd be more obsessed with him than ever. You know, this mysterious man.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like the Ninth Doctor kind of knew that. I think this is part of his flirting with Rose, and he wants her to become more intrigued. I don't think he really wants her to just go back to her old life. She's outgrown that anyway. She logs on to searchwise.net.
She just types in Doctor optimistically.
Types in Doctor.
And then when she gets like loads of results, she just sort of like shakes her head.
Then it's Doctor Living Plastic.
Yeah.
And then it's Doctor Blue Box. And each time it's refining the result.
Yeah.
And that's when she finds Clive's website.
Yeah.
And Mickey takes her to Clive's house, and he's very understandably nervous for her.
I always think there's stuff with the website. It feels quite creepy because it looks very the pictures of him are all quite ominous pictures. It looks quite spooky in his pixelated old photographs and things. The vibe of this stuff with Clive is very like, in simple terms, he's a stranger and he's dangerous, do you know? And there's more to him than meets the eye.
Yeah.
And that's really affecting because it's like, maybe she should be watching out because people know that Doctor Who's a sci-fi series with a lot of action and drama and stuff. So yeah, they know that he's worth being wary of. But then obviously it comes full circle in the episode's end when Clive is like, I was right all along, and then he dies. It's funny how when Rose goes to the guy's house, Mickey's like sat in his car, like scowling at the family, and Clive waves at him and he sort of like pouts at him back.
Yeah.
He's doing his sort of tough guy thing, isn't he?
We were creating like expanded storylines. So one of Clive's neighbours comes out with the wheelie bin, and I was like, facsimile.
He looks a bit like one of the facsimiles that tries to kidnap Pertwee in the wheelchair, to be fair. He looks a bit like that anyway. What was it? Were you saying once that there was an idea in one of the scripts or a version where it was going to be an Auton pushing out a wheelie bin? Yeah,
so you were going to see a shot of an Auton collecting the wheelie bin with Mickey inside to take back to the Nestene.
Yeah.
But they decided not to do that.
Yeah.
I think that would have been cool to see.
Yeah.
I always do wonder how Mickey got to the Nestene's lair.
Well, presumably someone would have picked him up at some, but it would have been an Auton picking him up, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
because there's no human beings that could have done it, so it would have been an Auton. But yeah, it's interesting. That could have been a good point for them to put in like a boiler suit Auton from the classic series or something.
Yeah,
but then that would be like, that's the sort of reference that I would say, oh, that'd be nice as a fan, but it would be lost to a regular like a new viewer, you know. But
that's okay though, because those references that can be lost on new viewers, but they're like nice for long-time viewers, are great.
Yeah.
Like an example of that where I think it doesn't work is when recently we watched season 1, Shooty's first series, and the build up to Sutek. And my sister she first got on the Doctor Who wagon, during the 60th, and all this build up, and then that was revealed. I mean, you were so excited, but it didn't explain it to her why she should be excited.
Yeah.
And she was so confused, and we had to explain it. And I think that's when it goes too far and it doesn't work.
She went from leaning forwards, watching it like
back
frantically, to sort of sighing and sitting back when the big dog appeared. And I was just a bit like, oh, it's a bit of a shame, that really.
Yeah. But this episode is inclusive for everyone, isn't it? Because long-term fans will know the Autons, but new-term fans that are learning what the Autons are. So,
but also I think as well, like, I think the reason why they don't show any Autons now is because they show them at the start with Rose, and then it almost makes it feel more like a dream, because the next time you see an Auton again is when they attack at the end properly.
Yeah.
Apart from obviously Mickey, but that he's like a facsimile, isn't he? But I think that's why, so it doesn't give you too much of them. You see a glimpse of them, so it makes it feel like Rose imagined it, or it kind of makes you think, did she imagine it, or whatever, It's to put you in her shoes. You can't see them whenever you want to. You see them when she sees them.
Mickey gets attacked by the wheelie bin.
Yeah.
And I always think it's really creepy how it merges with his skin.
I hate that. It also makes you feel a bit makes you feel a bit sick.
Yeah.
Because it looks like it's stretching his flesh.
Yeah, it's awful.
It's really, really freaky.
Really impressive little backflip into that bin as well. I don't know how they did that.
And the bin burping is a bit campy, isn't it?
Clive's speech is another standout moment in this episode.
Yeah.
The Doctor is a legend woven throughout history. When disaster comes, he's there. He brings the storm in his wake. And he has one constant companion.
Who's that?
Death.
Yeah.
When he explains the backstory and the fact the Doctor's popped up through time and just adding to the intrigue of it all.
Yeah.
Is so well done. Just to go back, when Rose knocks on the door and the little kid's like, Dad, it's another one of your nutters.
Yeah, and then his wife comes down the stairs. She's like, she's reading a website about the Doctor, and she's a she.
Yeah. There's a comic book where she's a big villain.
No.
Yeah, so she becomes a massive villain. I'm sure it's the comics or something like that, some sort of prose. And
why?
She wants to seek revenge on the Doctor for getting Clive, her husband, killed.
Oh, I see. Right,
Yeah.
fair enough. Well, I know that they did, in the 50th, they did a comic with like loads of classic monsters and doctors and things. And in that, Adam's the main villain.
So Clive thinks that the Doctor is immortal, not of this world. And that's when Rose's interest is like, okay, you're crazy.
Yeah.
So she gets back in the car with Mickey and she's like, you're right. He's a nutter.
Yeah.
And Mickey's there looking a little bit plastic.
A bit sinister.
Very much like the Spearhead facsimiles where their skin was shiny.
Yeah, yeah.
It was a shame they didn't do something like this with the Pandorica
Yeah.
Opens Autons.
Yeah.
Just a little bit of shine at least. I mean, they went the whole hog with Mickey. I mean, he looks like he's made of plastic.
He's really sinister, I
Yeah,
always thought.
really
Really
clever.
creepy.
Mhm.
And there's like an element of like kitsch and silliness to it as well. But like, it's really freaky how he's just there with like smiling. And it's like he's being controlled to do things that would appeal to Rose, but it's wrong. It feels so wrong because it's like, he's obviously not himself, is he? He's obviously something else, do you know?
Yeah. I just love that Rose doesn't notice.
I know.
But I love that though. I mean, it's just funny. It's just funny.
Is it supposed to show that she's not really interested in him though? She's not really focused, is she?
Yeah.
Her mind's elsewhere.
What are we going to do tonight? I fancy a pizza.
Pizza. Pizza.
Or Chinese.
Pizza.
But it's just, and it just gets more and more camp. Like they go for pizza and he's like,
I love
pizza,
the bit with the pizza.
Pizza. And they're in the restaurant.
Pizza. And then he drives off and he's like swerving around the road because he can't drive.
I don't think I ever noticed that before.
Oh, I think I did.
Like, he can't drive.
Because it's like an Auton driving the car.
Yeah.
Can you imagine being a giant tub of glowing plastic under the Thames? You're trying to control a plastic puppet to drive a car around a suburb in London.
It's no wonder that they made it to this restaurant, but still Rose doesn't question it.
Well, yeah. I wonder if they shot a scene in the car where she's like, what are you doing?
Yeah. And it's just those little comments that she makes in between, like talking about herself
Yeah.
in the restaurant as well.
I love the restaurant scene so much.
Oh, it's brilliant.
What do you think about the bit when he's like, because that's all I want to do, babe. Sugar, look after you.
But you can trust me, sweetheart, babe. Darling. Sugar. Babe, sugar.
Sweetheart, babe, sugar.
Babe.
She's like, what are you doing that for?
Yeah.
Which means that she can see that in universe happening. Why does it do that?
I don't know. I think it's
just so weird.
It's glitching out. Like, they've never been perfect, have they, really?
No, it's just funny.
Although arguably in Spearhead, they were a little bit more under control than that.
Yeah.
But anyway.
I love the bit as well when the doctor appears and he's like, let's toast the happy couple. And Mickey's like, we didn't order any. And then he looks at him and then he sees it's the doctor. And then the cork gets flipped off and hits it. It goes bong.
It's brilliant. It's so camped
He
up.
chews it up and spits it out, but it's just so clever. It's so funny.
When he spits out the cork, Mickey goes, anyway.
Yeah.
Oh my God. But it was really clever because we've never seen how like a facsimile would attack that doesn't involve the gun. So what did you think of the sort of mallets that his hands turn into?
I like it a lot, yeah.
Yeah.
They sort of remind me of like pizza tray things, which is funny because obviously they're in a pizza restaurant. But no, I mean, so this bit when I was a kid, I always thought it was really scary because the way that he like furiously swipes after them and after he's lost his head and sort of follows them, like that's always really creepy. We don't really know if the facsimiles can actually shoot or not because they're never shown with weapons, are they? Oh, they are actually in Terror with the policeman.
Yes.
But yeah, so maybe this is supposed to be a bit more, I don't know, direct. Yeah, when the doctor pulls his head off and Mickey's like got these big gaping eyes and he's like, don't think that's going to stop me. I love it that the husband's the one that screams.
Don't think that's gonna stop me.
That is so. I mean, it still gets us now. Like there's little funny bits like that I do forget. Some of the dialogue is just so quick.
Yeah.
Rose has one of her first sort of. She's companion material.
Yeah.
When her response to all this madness is getting everyone out safe.
Yeah.
So
she's got her head screwed on.
Yeah, that's a tally towards like, okay, she's going to be a good companion for the doctor.
Yeah.
You said it's quite scary when the headless Mickey is just like smashing up the restaurant,
like lumbering after them. Yeah, because it's that classic thing, isn't it? When you're a kid, like things chasing you, and it's furiously like smashing everything, and then the bit when they run outside to that back lot area, and then you can see it like dent the door.
Yeah,
as it hits the door, it's like, oh god, it's scary. Very scary.
The doctor's cool as a cucumber and he just wanders into the TARDIS.
Well, yeah, they sort of run out, don't they? And the minute the door's shut, he's like sauntering to the TARDIS with getting his key out really slowly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love that. Like to not create any more alarm, just to be really calm. And Rose is obviously manic. As TARDIS scenes go, I think this is probably the best. I don't know if that's rose-tinted glasses.
Well, this is funny because this one's the first time in the new series when they actually do it earnestly, because the audience have to be introduced to it for the first time as well. So you really do discover it through Rose's eyes, whereas every other time it happens, you have to think they're doing this for people that have potentially seen it happen several times now. So they put spins on it intentionally. But with that, I think anyway, Rose's is the best one. But I think that Bill's is probably a close second.
I agree.
Because Bill's directly inverts it on purpose. And that was the first time they did that. Whereas I've done that a couple of times now as well. So then it's a bit less special. But yeah, I think Rose's is the best one just for how clear it is that this is like an ancient alien machine. The doctor's the alien that pilots it and he's this mysterious figure. And you have to sort of trust him. You have to just go along with the ride, don't you?
Yeah, it's a very grounded TARDIS entrance, isn't it?
Yeah.
And she does what anyone would do. She runs out of there.
Yeah.
Runs around it.
Yeah.
But then decides to go back in again.
He's going to follow us.
The assembled odds of Genghis Khan can get through that door, and believe me, they've tried. Now, shut up a minute. You see, The arm is too simple. The head's perfect. I can use it to trace the signal back to the original source. Right. Where do you want to start?
The inside's bigger than the outside?
Yes?
It's alien.
Yeah.
Are you alien?
Yes. Is that all right?
Yeah.
It's called the TARDIS, this thing. TARDIS. That's time and relative dimension in space. That's okay. Culture shock. Happens to the best of us.
The long pan out is just so good, where it really shows off the scale of
it's
set.
gorgeous, isn't it? That I wouldn't know they did that shot so smoothly.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And then we get introduced to the TARDIS, and again, this is like a whistle-stop tour of Doctor Who, but it's done so earnestly and just so beautifully.
It's done in a very digestible way.
Yeah. Rose's reaction is she breaks down in tears.
Yeah.
And the Doctor's like, "Oh, that's culture shock. Happens to the best of us."
She's like, "Did they kill him, Mickey?"
Because the Doctor's an alien. It reminds you he's an alien.
You didn't even think about it.
No.
Yeah.
So they have their first little domestic, don't they?
And the bit was just like,
they copied him. He didn't even think.
Yeah.
And they're just going to let him melt.
Yeah, you're just going to let him melt. And Doctor's like, no. So then he starts following it. And that's nice because it forces them to move to the next scene. And it takes them right outside the base, doesn't it? Opposite the London Eye.
Mm-hmm.
And this scene's iconic now for all the right reasons as well. Like lots of planets have a north and all that sort of stuff. But they use this scene to tell us more about the Doctor and more about what he's doing on Earth and the Nestenes. And it's so like, this is how you do it for new viewers, where you don't make them feel intimidated. You just introduce it in a quick way that feels grounded, you know?
Yeah.
He only tells her what she needs to know.
And it's so clever how when the Mickey head melts, when Mickey's Auton head melts and the TARDIS lands and the Doctor realises he's not quite where he should be. He's not quite at the Nestene base, only nearby.
Yeah.
So he's still got to find it.
Yeah.
Slowed him down.
Yeah.
Because he was sort of minding Rose and showing off to Rose a little bit.
Yeah.
And he's a little bit cross. And his patience is sort of gone for the start of this scene.
Yeah.
And then he warms up again, like she really warms him up.
Yeah.
And he's telling her all about, the police box and why it's a police box and things like that.
Yeah, it's beautifully done. And it's nice because it's like you say, she's like, "What's a police public call box?" And then they talk about it a bit. And she asks about the Nestenes as well. What do you think about the bit when he goes around to London Eye and he's completely oblivious to the fact it's there?
It's great because that's why he needs a companion, because sometimes he misses the obvious.
Yeah.
He's so intelligent that he doesn't see what's right in front of him.
His brain's 100 places at once.
I liked as well when Rose is like, "What's a police public call box?" And he's like, "It's a telephone box from the 1950s. It's a disguise." And she's like, "Okay."
Yeah.
And we get like the first Time War reference. Did you clock that?
Yeah, but it's done in quite a
subtle.
Yeah, in a way that's makes you wonder what happened to their planet, but it isn't made the forefront of the conversation, is it?
No.
Their protein planets have gone, and it's like you can imagine them that these gigantic creatures that need to feed, and they are animalistic, aren't they? The Nestenes. Mm-hmm. Without this, which is destroyed in the Time War, they're forced to try new things for food, which I guess might explain why they go back to Earth because they're desperate.
Yeah,
and they know the Doctor's potentially there to stop them, but they go back anyway. They're sort of talked about in this story as if they're less intelligent, aren't they? Mm-hmm. Almost like how the Macro were brought back and they were made less intelligent. They're made more like beasts.
Yeah,
the way the Nestene acts in this, when you see it at the end, it's more like a beast or a monster than like an intelligent alien squid.
Although the Doctor does liaise with it.
Yeah,
and so talks about the Shadow Proclamation or whatever. But we can't understand what it's saying.
No.
Which I always thought was a bit of a choice.
It does say Time Lord, though.
Yeah, you can sort of understand words here and there.
I think in the shooting scripts book,
there's dialogue.
There's some dialogue for it, yeah. Only a couple more lines, but maybe they were taken out.
Because Nick Briggs is credited as the voice.
Yeah. But when we watched it tonight, I was listening out for when it spoke, and I think I only heard it say Time Lord.
So the dish is the London Eye.
Yeah.
And we have another iconic shot. Westminster Bridge.
The bridge, yeah.
The score. There's a bus behind them. If you ever watched Doctor Who Confidential, they waited ages for a bus. They wanted a bus in that shot. And it's so typical. The minute you want a bus,
then
there are no buses.
Yeah. And they get two at once.
Yeah, exactly. And fun fact as well, if you watch that shot on a big screen, preferably the HD version, you can see a guy sat at the front picking his nose. Yeah, and it's really obvious.
Imagine being immortalised like that.
I know.
At least he didn't look at the camera, but I've been mortified if that was me.
Don't. Anyway,
so this affirms that they're the new team, doesn't it? It's like the moment when she's got a massive grin on her face. She's clearly really enjoying herself.
Yeah, this is what she was looking for without knowing what it was.
Yeah, and I love the bit when they go into the little base because it's, again, everyone's been to London, everyone's been near the Thames. It's like this really close to home thing, and then they enter this little chamber, and it's like, oh my god, like they're going into the enemy's base. And this is when I was thinking, like, it's very much like classic Who. Like this would be part 4 now.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's the same thing where they've entered the baddie's base. They're going to go in there and have a conflict, and either come out of it the winners or come out of it worse for wear.
Yeah.
But they're a team, and it's very much Rose and Nine. And the atmosphere is spot on, very creepy, like the rumblings of the machinery and stuff. And I really like it where there's all this build-up, and then the Doctor says, there it is, and they're looking at it down there. And Rose is like, right, tip in your anti-plastic and let's go.
Well then, tip in your anti-plastic and let's go.
I'm not here to kill it. I've got to give it a chance.
She's just like, right, slaughter it and let's get out.
I also loved when, just before this, when the Doctor's like, think of it, plastic all over the world, every artificial thing waiting to come alive, shop window dummies, which obviously he met before,
cables,
the phones, the wires, the cables, and obviously that's from Terror. So I thought that was really clever. And then Rose is like, the breast implants.
Yeah. To remind you, it's not the 70s anymore.
No. But,
modern world with new worries.
Yeah. I do think as well, this whole episode is like the trials of Rose Tyler. You know, she survives a near-death experience. She can handle the idea of aliens, the TARDIS. She helps the Doctor work something out. Then in the final test is when the Doctor's in trouble, and she can either be a coward like Mickey, or she can stand up and fight. And that's what she does. That's the final test. That gives her invitation to travel with the Doctor. And I just love it. I love it. Anyway,
I think the last bit when he goes down the stairs to face the Nestene, and you're right, he speaks to it like it's an intelligent creature. He's like, am I addressing the Nestene consciousness? I seek audience with blah, 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 blah. And then when he's talking to it, those two Autons come out, don't they, out of nowhere?
Still suited and booted.
And they snatch his anti-plastic off him. I bet if there were to have one come and take the bins away, those would be the ones that would do that, because Mickey's in that chamber, isn't he?
Yeah.
That's when Rose says, you knew that it was a possibility they'd keep him alive and you never said. The Doctor was like, yeah. And that's another moment when you think, right, he's an alien and doesn't really give a shit about Mickey.
So Mickey's alive, and unlike Spearhead, he's not in stasis. He's just left on the floor as a scared, traumatized mess.
Yeah.
And it's so funny when Rose runs to Mickey and proclaims that he's alive. And then like Doctor just rolls his eyes, like gives the biggest eye
like,
roll.
Oh.
And that's when he says, can we keep the domestics out of here, please?
Yeah.
So funny. It's just, they're just so settled. Like, it's great.
Yeah, so they grab the Doctor, and then the Nestene makes them move a grate back, and the TARDIS is there. God knows how they got it down there. I'd like to have seen two Autons manage that, but anyway. And it starts to panic, doesn't it? The Doctor says that it's panicking because it thinks it's a weapon.
Yeah, so they left the TARDIS, and in the time that they ran over Westminster Bridge. Anyway.
Yeah.
This might be why the TARDIS's lights were off just before Henrik's blew up. So clearly, the Nestene can detect the TARDIS.
Yeah, well, they said that the Doctor says to the Nestene, you got here by a warp shunt technology. May I suggest that you shunt off? But maybe that's something that they can use to warp a body or a physical object to somewhere else, i.e. how that massive creature ended up in that vat. Because how would that get anywhere?
Yeah.
But maybe they use like a technique to bring the TARDIS into the base quickly, and that's that. You know?
Like how the Daleks always do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Or the Sontarans.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
But
exactly.
Rose rings her mum because the Nestene are activating.
Sends out the signal, doesn't it?
The signal, yeah. And Jackie's like, There you are, just going to phone. You can get compensation. I said so. I got this document thing off the police. Don't thank me. Oh.
And then she decides to do some late night shopping.
I'm in town.
I'm in town! No, go home! Just go home right now! Darling, you're breaking up. Listen, I'm just going to do a bit of late night shopping. I'll see you later. Ta-ra! Mum!
Iconic.
Yeah. So Jackie's off and out and about, isn't she, on a little jolly? And then we see the London Eye, and there's like a signal boosting out from it from the Nestene, so all the Autons start to activate. And we see Clive and his family are also out for a bit of late night shopping for some reason. That's when we see the first mannequins start to move, isn't it?
The culmination of Clive's story, isn't it?
Yeah.
And like you said, he says it's true. Everything I read, all the stories, and that's the first victim that the Autons have.
It's cool to see them actually smashing the window too, because obviously they cut away from that in terror in Spearhead.
It's so weird because my brain edits that in, that they did smash the windows in Spearhead.
Yeah.
Jackie's coming down the escalator after all this chaos is unfolding.
With her Jane Knorr bag.
Yeah. With her Jane Norman bag. And I love that she decides to ditch it. She throws it behind
on the
her,
stairs.
screams
She's
and
like,
runs.
Ah!
I mean, it's no wonder that the cuntiest Autons pick on Jackie, the bridal Autons. They're my favourite ones. I'm so sad we didn't get figures of those.
That is such a good figure. It is so funny.
Oh, yeah, this is the big moment for Rose when the doctor's in trouble and she's looking around and she's sort of in shock.
She steps up to the plate, doesn't she?
She does. She stands up, and even Mickey is saying to her, just leave him, there's nothing you can do. And she ignores him and she like runs over to the chain. And that moment is so great, where she's like, I've got no A-levels, no job. And then in between, the bride Auton hands are coming down.
Got no A-levels. No job. No future. But I tell you what I have got. Jericho Street Junior School Under 7s Gymnastics team. I've got the bronze.
If she was a coward, not only would the whole world be lost, but her mum was literally about to be killed as well.
Yeah. And it just goes to show how easy it is for things to go wrong like that.
Yeah.
Like if they'd been a split second longer, it's so clever how Rose is like, I've got no A-levels, and then the first hand swings down, I've got no GCSEs or whatever. And then, you know, it happens like that.
Yes.
It's just so nice. And then, yeah, right at the last second, she jumps on the chain and the doctor ducks and she sort of boots the Auton over the side. She hits the other one and the antiplastic gets dropped in, doesn't it? And then he catches her.
Yes, he catches her. For keen ears, the TV movie motif plays.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They all run into the TARDIS, and I love that Rose is the last one into the TARDIS. She turns around for one more gloat.
Yeah.
Yeah, then the whole building explodes.
It's also epic. Like I know that it was a model shot, but it's blended so well, and you don't really realise you've only watched 45 minutes until you think about it. And it's all very fast, but it feels like it uses the time perfectly.
Yeah.
A New Who doesn't always do that. It can be the best episode ever, but it can still feel frantic. But this doesn't. It feels perfectly paced to me. This.
I love how prolonged like all the Auton deaths are. They sort of drop really slowly and like are still twitching. And there's one Auton, like a male one, and he's in the most bizarre position with his leg right in the air, sort of kicking.
Yeah, his head spun around as well.
Yeah, he's doing the most.
I always miss the dying sound from Spearhead. And I get why they didn't put it in, but I miss it because it's just playing that sort of like funny little tune, isn't it? And they're all like jigging.
Yeah. I feel quite sorry for Jackie as well when she gets up and brushes herself off.
I know.
She looks around in shock. I mean, Rose ignores her. She checks that she's safe.
Yeah.
And then ignores her and hangs up on her. But it's quite harrowing because Jackie looks around, and I don't really pay attention to it as a child, but as an adult, there's dead people on the floor.
Yeah.
The Autons, they did slaughter quite a few people.
Yeah. But she's just left there, and it's a bit sad because she looks down at her phone, and then the police arrive. So I guess it's the idea is they're going to look after her, but like it's a bit shit for her.
Yeah.
So
and you know what's even shittier?
What?
That is the last time. Oh no! Yeah, that is the last time she hears from her daughter for 6 months. Was it 12?
A year. It says you've been gone a whole year.
Yeah.
To Rose. Yeah.
Like, Jesus.
Terrible. Although Rose does call her, doesn't she?
No, that's before her last day at work.
Really?
Yeah. Because she talks about the lottery.
Oh, yeah. God.
Nuts.
Yeah.
So poor Jackie goes through the ringer.
Yeah,
This is the start of hell. But
so then they have the last scene where the TARDIS parks in that bit behind the Travelodge in Cardiff that's not there anymore.
Yeah, it's a shame. It should have been immortalised.
Yeah.
There should be a blue plaque there. But and Rose gets her invite onto the TARDIS.
She does. It's so iconic.
Rose, don't go out of the house. It's not safe. No, there were these things, and they were shooting, and they... Hello?
Fat lot good you were.
Nestene Consciousness? Easy.
You were useless in there. You'd be dead if it wasn't for me.
Yes, I would. Thank you. Right then, I'll be off. Unless, I don't know. You could come with me.
And even this scene is written so well, where she says no.
Yeah.
And she said, I've got to look after this lump. You could fill your life with work and food and sleep, or you could go anywhere. And then Rose walks away with Mickey and the TARDIS dematerializes. And then it comes back and the Doctor's like, by the way, it also travels in time.
Yeah.
And that's when she's like, why am I saying no to this?
Yeah.
She's looking at Mickey and he's just so pathetic. I just love, like, instead of some long-winded speech, she just says to him, thanks. And he's like, thanks for what? Exactly. And then gives him a kiss and then off she goes.
Yeah.
So good.
So good. And the slow motion shot she runs in is fantastic as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great episode. And Rose, this episode for me is 10 out of 10. I mean, series 1 for me is one of my all-time favourite series of Doctor Who. Apart from the way, I do think that Mickey gets a bit mistreated, but that's one part of it, I think. And series 1 for me is one of the best seasons. And I think that seeing how Rose started it off, I mean, what a way to start it. Would you give it a 10 or would you give it less?
I'd give it 100.
Yeah, it's really good.
I love it. It's just the ultimate comfort episode for me. Absolutely love it. And it might be rose tinted glasses. And if it is, I don't even care. It just makes me so happy, this episode.
Yeah. I know. Well, you like what you like, don't you? And I mean, I remember watching this. I went back and watched this on the volume DVDs because I missed it when it was first showing. So I wasn't watching Doctor Who when this was first broadcast. But I remember walking in and my mum watching it. And she did watch the original Autons stories on broadcast. And there she was in front of the TV watching this. So it got her to tune back in and she thought it was great. I remember walking in and seeing the scenes of the Autons shooting people. And God knows why I thought it wasn't going to be for me, but I didn't want to watch it. So I walked out again. But then by Dalek, I was hooked.
So there we go. All 3 Autons stories.
Yeah.
I can't believe there's only 3.
I know.
Such a rich idea. I like that Robert Holmes got a credit at the end of Rose for being the creator of the Autons.
Yeah.
That's very, very fair.
Yeah.
I hope that they come back again.
I think it's high time for them to come back now, really.
High bloody time. Like, there are less interesting Doctor Who monsters that have had so many more returns. Like, don't come for me, but the Zygons have had so much to do. And I just don't think they're half as interesting as the Autons.
They were in it loads for a short time, weren't they? Like, very frequently, and they just dropped them again.
Moffat had a penchant for them, didn't he, for a while?
Yeah. That concludes the Autons trilogy now. So now I think we're going to go back, aren't we, and jump on Series 7 at some stage soon. But maybe our next episode will be a complete mystery.
Okay, cool. Well, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much if you made it this far.
Yeah.
If you enjoyed this, please consider giving us a rating. Follow us on the socials. And until the next time.